Hi, this is Lady Lex UK and this is a Dreams tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at making a rotating menu. I recently played Blade Gunner and that had a really nice rotating menu, and that's inspired me to make this. Now, I'm not saying this is how they made it, this is how I've made it. There are lots of ways to make everything in Dreams, so don't think that this is the only method or the method you must use. This is just a method and it might give you some ideas of things that you might want to do with your own menu. So, what have I built? Let's go into play mode. Because I've got it on studio lighting, it takes a while for the colours to come up. So we've got some text. I've got a little sphere in the middle and I've got some text, and if I hover over with my imp, the text brightens up. And I can also rotate the text using the left stick, and I can rotate it in the opposite direction as well. So there we go. This is a rotating menu. If I hover over and press the cross button, it makes a funny little noise. This is just an indication that that has been selected. In a game situation, you would have that wired up to do something like start a level or show some controls or something. So let's have a look at what I've built. Okay, reset it. Okay, so we have in our center we have our sphere. This is just window dressing. This is color. This is just a little bit of extra. It's not necessary for the mechanics of this, but it's nice to have something in the center. You could put anything you like in center, of course, something that's relevant for your game, maybe a spaceship or something. Just make sure that it is non-collidable. You don't want it colliding with the cube, or more specifically, you don't want it colliding with these cylinders that are hanging from the cube. Also a good idea to make the cube non-collidable as well. And in this instance, I've made this cube invisible. Now, I suggest if you're going to do that at the end. But if you do want to set it invisible to start with, don't forget that you're going to need to unclick on preview invisibility. Otherwise, you won't be able to select anything on the cube and you won't be able to see it properly. So I'd leave the visibility to the end before you do anything. So now for what I've done here, I've got that sphere that's visible and the cube is not visible, but you could change it and have a visible cube. It gives you a different effect. It's quite a cool effect, like so. I think this looks quite nice. That's a way of doing it. Obviously you'd have a nicely coloured glowing futuristic looking cube of some sort, but there you go. You don't have to have an invisible cube and something in the center, but that's the way I've done it, so we'll just make that invisible for now. Right, so you make your cube, you have whatever you have in the middle of it, and you place text displayers on all four sides of the cube going round. So what you do is you take a text displayer, L1 and stamp, and then you put it somewhere on that face, and then you let's select the text displayer. Then you choose in scene, and that puts your text physically on that cube. Place it in the right position, and that's you done there. Now I've set it so that the text is grey normally, and it only becomes bright white when you hover over. And to do this, I've chosen a grey colour for the main text, and I've got a 90% brightness, which only activates when this wire, which we'll see in a minute, activates it. Do not choose black text if you want to use the brightness method, because black text does not glow. So any other colour is fine, even just slightly off grey is perfectly fine. It will glow, but black doesn't glow, so don't make it perfectly black. Right, so there's your text displayer, and they're all around the sides. Now we've got to make our cube rotate. So we've got a microchip. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a controller sensor onto my microchip. This is going to act as our control for the left stick. Now the first thing you need to do is to set it to remote controllable. Now I've said this on numerous occasions on lots of my tutorials, but do this first. As soon as you put down your controller sensor, click on this button. If you are not going to be possessing this microchip or this sensor, then you must have it remote controllable. If you don't, it won't work. So many times I've built things and I've forgotten to do that, and you think, what have I done wrong? This isn't working, and all I haven't done is just turned it on, basically. So do that first. We're going to use the left stick local with a wire, and that's going to go to this splitter. I'm going to put a splitter down. Now what this does is it takes the signal from the left stick and divides it into whether it's left or right or up and down. Now we're not interested in the up and down movements, so we're going to use a wire just from the X into another splitter, and this splitter will tell us whether they're going left or right. So left is the negative and right is the positive. And these are going to power on our rotators. I've got two, one for each direction. And you place these in and use a wire from affected objects to your cube. So both of them are now going to affect this cube. Don't worry about what happens. This is going to be completely centered. That's what they will naturally do. They won't be off-centered or anything weird. It won't rotate on its central point. So it will always rotate as you would expect it to. So we've got our two rotators. And as you can see, one is set at negative 130 and one is set at 130. Actually, let's set it at 130 exactly. I don't know why it's... There we go. Negative 130 and 130. And these are the two different directions. So, Widdershins and clockwise. And you have one at negative and one at positive, so it will rotate in different directions. So when you press a left button, it will go one way or the other way. And that's how you set up the rotation to be in different directions. So we've got our two rotators, and they are wired with the power from the positive or the negative, so from the left stick move or the right stick move, and that's going to rotate our cube all the way around. Now we want to put in our highlight areas. Now because you cannot grab and highlight text, we need something, a sculpt, to act as something to hover over. So I've used these cylinders. Make sure they are all separate sculpts. You don't want them to be the same sculpt, and you don't want them to be the same sculpt as your cube. So make sure they are separate. And we're going to attach them to our cube with bolts set at 100% tightness. Don't worry about the fact that that's got a little kink in it. It's not supposed to. It just got moved, but it's okay as long as it stays in position where you want it, which is over the text. So where this text is, that's where you're going to put your cylinder. So stretch it out until it's covering your text, and that's going to act as our hover. So now you need to place a grab sensor. So you get a grab sensor from the green section and stamp it. So surface snap L1 and X onto your cylinder, and then move it into your microchip, and it will remember that that is the thing it's grabbing. As you can see, there's a wire and a little sucker thing. Okay, so you've got one for each side, one for each of those cylinders, and we're going to have an effect when you hover. So if you look at the grab sensor, this third one down is hovered, and we've got a wire going from hovered into our text displayer, and that's what's activating our brightness. Now you can do all sorts of special effects. You don't have to just have brightness. If you wanted to, you can have anything you like by using a keyframe. So if I put a keyframe down I can now do whatever I want. So this text displayer doesn't need any wires into it. I can change the text color. I can change the font. I could make the text bigger. There's all sorts of things I can do. There we go, like that. So I now wire my hovered to my keyframe. So now that's what it does when it hovers. It's bigger and it changes the font. These, of course, because they're all independent, they do exactly the same. If you want to change all of them, then you're going to have to do them all individually, because you're going to need an individual keyframe for each of these. So you will have to do those one at a time. So you have a keyframe for each of these, even with the same effect. You can't do them all in one go. Okay, so that's basically it, apart from the selector. So here we have our controller sensor, and as you can see, there is a wire coming from the cross button, and they're going into the B sockets of all these AND gates. The hover wire is going into the A sockets of all of these AND gates. So what this AND gate is saying is, am I hovering over this particular one? And have I pressed the cross button? And if both of these are true, then it's playing this sound effect. So that's wired it to there. But this is where you wire in your effect. So whatever you want this, once it's selected to do, this is the wire that you need. You can turn on a timeline, you can turn on a microchip, you can do whatever you need to do, level link to something, change a cam to another camera, all sorts of things. But this is the wire that will do your call to action. And that will activate when you're hovering over one of these and you press the cross button. It won't activate all of them. It needs both these to be active, and these wires are all unique. So you would send these to unique actions like that. The only other thing that I haven't shown you is the camera. You want a fixed camera, so just place a camera down, put it in the position that you want it in. L1 and X on the camera allows you to adjust and get it deadly centered and in the right position. I mean, you can have it further away if you wanted. So L1 and circle sets the camera position, and now you can see I'm a lot further away from my original position. So you can change the camera angle, but you want a fixed camera angle, and by putting that camera down, it means you're not moving around with the left and right stick with your imp either. You're nicely fixed, and that's that left button, that left stick is now just controlling your menu and nothing else. So there we go. And that is it. The only other difference thing that I've got here is the sun and sky, where I have put that down to 0 just to take all the colour out. But I mean, you don't have to have in complete darkness. You can do whatever you like. This is your menu, and different effects can apply. Now, you can have it revolving up and down. That's a very simple change. You just wire from the Y instead of the X. And make sure your rotators are turned 90 degrees in this direction so that it will rotate it in along the vertical. And that's it. You can have it rotating the other way if you want, or at really weird angles. It's entirely up to you. Have experiment with it, see what you can do. There's lots you can do with this. This is just a starting point for you to make your own unique menu. Thank you for watching. Hope that was useful and you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you in your dreams.